Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Coast News. And as always, got some amazing news from different theme parks, rides, attractions and events all over the world. So let's get straight into the news today. Our top story for tonight, Alton Towers have submitted plans for a brand new unknown flat ride that's set to be built in Forbidden Valley. And this just sort of came out of nowhere, and it's just started loads of wild rumours about what kind of ride it's going to be. It doesn't even say what kind of ride it's going to be on the plan application. Basically, if you know what I'm talking about, basically, Alton Towers is obviously a theme park located in Staffordshire, United Kingdom. It is the biggest theme park in the UK, home to over 40 different rides and attractions. And obviously, the main thing that they're doing this year, the main sort of new attraction that are opening this year is Nemesis Reborn, which is obviously the refurbishment of the previous Nemesis roller coaster, which opened originally in 1994. And as part of this reopening, they're actually refurbishing pretty much the whole of, or most of Forbidden Valley to sort of like give it a sort of a refresh and a new lease on life to celebrate a new opening of Nemesis Reborn. And obviously that means that they're going to refurbish multiple different buildings in the area, including utilising an abandoned building, well, not really abandoned, but the former Ripsaw cafe as a new shop unit, and also replacing the Edge Games arcade game building with a brand new building of the same purpose. But those don't seem to be the full extent of the plans, because this plan seems to be stretching years after this year. Because obviously, the other day, Alton Towers submitted a plan application for a brand new permanent flat ride, which we haven't had a brand new one at Alton Towers in a long time. And they didn't say what kind of attraction it's going to be, whether it's going to be located on the former site of Ripsaw. It's going to be 18 metres tall. It's going to be the actual ride itself. It says it's a bit confusing. The actual ride itself is going to be 13.5 metres tall, but it's going to be based on a 4-metre concrete structure that's going to go over the path between the former Ripsaw site and the coffee lounge. So there'll be an underpass going underneath the ride, and there'll be queue line steps on both sides, and also theming structures on both sides, like cylindrical theming structures on both sides. And there'll also be a queue line and also entry points on both sides of the attraction. But we have no idea what it's going to be. And there are so many people saying it's going to be the return of Ripsaw. Ripsaw's coming back. Ripsaw 2.0. Personally, I'll believe it when I see it. You know, if it is Ripsaw coming back, then great. But I don't know whether that's going to be the case. It could come back, but I'm just, until I think it's going to be a brand new ride. But either way, I cannot wait for this brand new ride to open at Alton Towers, hopefully in a year or two, and I can't wait to see it get built. In other news today, Voltron has now officially started testing with full trains at Europa-Park. And this ride is looking absolutely spectacular, and honestly, it will not be long at all before this thing opens. I think it's maybe going to be like a month or two before this ride opens. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, basically Voltron is a brand new roller coaster that's opening at Europa-Park in Germany. Obviously, the whole of Europa-Park itself is actually owned by the Mack family, who obviously own Mack Rides, which is a roller coaster manufacturer that have built roller coasters all over the world. They're even including the likes of Hyperia, which is opening at Fort Park this year. Obviously, Europa-Park looks like one of the best theme parks in Europe. Like, literally, it looks so amazing. Like the attention to detail on around the theming of all the rides and attractions, and also all the actual offerings of entertainment and attractions they have themselves is just phenomenal. And obviously they've got a really good coaster lineup as well. They've got like sort of Silver Star, which is a B&O Hyper, Blue Fire, which is a Mack Launch, Woden, which is a wooden coaster, Poseidon, which is a Mack water coaster, along with many others. But this year they're opening a brand new Mack Striker coaster, which is sort of a new version of their previous Big Dipper model. And if you don't know what Big Dipper is, it's basically like the likes of Lost Gravity at Wallaby Holland. But it's a brand new version that's capable of loads of different other track elements, such as launchers, switch tracks, turntables, forwards and backwards elements, a lot more advanced than the previous one. It's also got longer trains as well. It's got 4 cars with 4 rows basically 4 seats in each row. So it's got 16 riders per train, so it's a pretty decent capacity attraction. And obviously, a couple of months ago, it did actually start testing with the chassis of the train, but not actually the full train. Like not the seats or the lap bars were installed. It was just the chassis holding, which was being held up by the ride wheels. That was it. That was all it was testing. However, recently, the full train had actually arrived on site, and now it's doing full cycle testing with the fully completed trains with test dummies, and it looks absolutely spectacular. Not to mention, obviously, the way it interacts with the theming as well. Like the theming on this ride looks phenomenal. Honestly, yeah. I mean, the layout on its own looks gorgeous. Like there's so many different elements. It's also a really long ride as well. And overall, I cannot wait for Voltron Nivera to open later this year. We don't know when it's going to open yet. I'd assume maybe March or April. But I can't wait for Voltron to open at Europa-Park later this year. Also in the news today, Dreamworld in Australia have announced they're building the world's first Vekoma Switchback Coaster later this year. And obviously this sort of came out like completely out of nowhere. It's a brand new innovative ride type from Vekoma, and it is further proof that this year is going to be sort of the revolution of family coasters in the theme park industry. But if you know what I'm talking about, basically Dreamworld is a amusement park located in Queensland in Australia. It's home to probably one of Australia's best theme parks. It used to be home to the iconic Tower of Terror 2 attraction, which operated from 1997, I think, until 2019, where it got removed. The actual tower holding up the attraction still remained, because that was turned into a drop tower, the drop tower was refurbished later as a Dreamworld Tower. And obviously they're home to multiple other attractions. One of the most recent ones was Steel Taipan, which is a Mack multi-launch coaster. It's a Blue Fire clone, but it's got a little twist to it as well. Because it's actually a shuttle coaster technically. Well, sort of. It's got a multi-pass, instead of having just a single launch, it's got a multi-pass launch, where it launches forwards, goes backwards through a switch track, past the switch track, into a sort of backwards twisted spike, then back down into the third launch at the maximum speed for the rest of the layout. So obviously the point being, they've got some really good roller coaster attractions as well, and also they're starting to up the level of theming as well, because recently announced a partnership with Vekoma to build a brand new roller coaster type called a Switchback Coaster. It's going to be on a roller coaster called Jungle Rush. It's going to open late this year, and basically what this ride is, it is a brand new variation of like a family coaster, but it's capable of so many different technological track elements such as switch tracks. The park have said that it is going to contain an inclined turntable, whatever that means, various different show sections, and forwards and backwards travel. And Vekoma themselves have also stated that it is going to be a one-of-a-kind attraction that will offer different track cycles, and it's going to be a unique experience. Now, what could this mean by different track cycles? Could it have more than one track in the layout? Or could it could it be like changing different cycles? If it has like a lift hill and a launch, like if it's like a Vekoma's own lift and launch coaster, could it have like a backwards launch in one part into a switch track into a different part of the ride, and a forwards launch in another part of the ride? I don't know, but we'll have to find out. Obviously we're going to see when this ride opens later this year. And overall, this looks like a really good investment for Dreamworld in Australia, and I cannot wait for Jungle Rush to open later this year. And finally in the news today, new layout details have been revealed for Drayton Manor's brand new Intamin family lift and launch coaster. And this ride is honestly just really mysterious, like in terms of what actual kind of experience it's going to offer. We only know only a few minor details about it. But if you know what I'm talking about, basically, there is a brand new roller coaster being built at Drayton Manor, which is located in Staffordshire, England. It's not far from Alton Towers, actually. It's kind of their rival park. But obviously, they announced last year that they were building a brand new family thrill coaster for 2024 season. And they didn't initially tell us what that kind of attraction was going to be at first. However, it was later revealed that it was going to be an Intamin family lift and launch coaster, which is a new type of family coaster from Intamin. That obviously its two main elements of propulsion are obviously a lift hill and a launch. Obviously, Intamin had revealed like a default layout in an animation that released on YouTube. However, that's not the one we're getting. We are the UK. We have to make it complicated. We have to have like world's first everything for theme parks. So basically, what Drayton Manor are doing, they are building a lift-hill launch coaster. But the weird thing is, when they started building it, there were no leaked planning documents, so we couldn't actually see what kind of layout it had. We're only getting an idea of what layout it has now because it's gone vertical for literally about 2 weeks and it's almost finished. It's flying up, I'm telling you. But basically, a weird track element was spotted like during construction in the early phases. There was actually not one but 2 switch tracks spotted on the ride. One switch track is just after the station, just before the lift hill, after the little pre-drop, the pre-lift hill section, and there's another switch track located at the start of the launch. Now, obviously, the switch track just before the launch actually serves sort of two purposes. One of the purposes is obviously for it to like go into like a maintenance shed, so access to a maintenance building. But the other one connects to a separate track that goes off in its own journey, which sort of connects back to the pre-lift hill section switch track. There's lots of wild theories going around, because obviously the park's general manager did actually confirm that the ride will have different sort of cycle offerings, a different experience depending on what time of day you ride it. So it's rumoured that the switch track before the launch, it will launch backwards, go back up to the lift hill, like a shuttle coaster, backwards, and then go back down the lift hill, back to the launch through the rest of the layout. And overall, it looks like a really amazing attraction, whatever it's going to be. But I cannot wait for this brand new ride to open later this year. So that is it for this week's episode of Coaster News. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you did, then please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment if you'd like to see in the next video. Goodbye.